Welcome to the WDW Fan Zone Show. I am Stuart Sternberg, and tonight we've got John Maloney and Kurt, and we are going to have a Three Stooges show tonight. So I don't know who's Mo, Larry, and Curly. Yeah, well,
hey, I got to be Curly. That's all there is to it.
Roll it from you. Sorry, Kurt.
Yeah, well, anyway, it doesn't matter who's who. But this certainly is not going to be a Three Stooges show. It's going to be the best show we've got going ever, right?
It's the man show.
Tonight, unfortunately, Lottie is working late, and Darlene has already shuffled off to Buffalo. So it's just us guys. But we're kind of going to pick up where we left off last week, talking about Iger coming back, but we're really talking and focusing more on what does this mean for bringing more magic to the park, or we're really growing the magic in the park? Because we know when Iger came back, he said that, creative was his main focus, and it's all about storytelling. And what is storytelling? It's providing magic. And that's something that, unfortunately, with the previous CEO was missing from the parks. And you know what? Yes, we did go through a pandemic, and we're not out of it yet. And there were hard times there. So it may not have been all his fault, but he's getting blamed for it all because it was under his control. And what happened behind the scenes to bring Iger back, we don't know. I mean, we're very grateful and happy that Iger's back. But how much are things really going to change, and when? We're not really going to talk about that tonight. But it's something to just keep on your minds, and, maybe we'll have a future discussion about that. But anyway, John, where do you start? I mean, I think we all have a place. We'll go around. I think we all have a place where you start, but where do you start to grow the magic?
Well, and we talked about this before we started recording, but I think that the starting place, I think what makes magic most for the guests is the cast members. So I think the cast members have to be committed enough in their roles to make the guests happy. So I think the first place to start is what can be done to make the cast members happy and committed to their roles.
I think the town hall meeting he had on this past Monday was a great start, because I'll tell you, I was in the parks yesterday, or in Disney's Hollywood Studios, and you can see the smiles on cast members' faces from ear to ear that were missing just a month ago. It's not that they weren't smiling, but it seems like the vote of confidence that they got from Bob Iger has gone a long way. We know that only lasts so long, but at least for now, it's gone a long way, and you can tell they're happier, and in turn, they're making the guests feel happier. Kurt, would you agree that's the number one thing right now? Or
I'm concerned. John wants the cast members committed. If they're committed, who's going to run the parks?
I said committed to their role. They are
committed to their role.
They have a role in storytelling.
Yes. So I think the first thing that kind of maybe stand off just for a touch with all of that. Again, he's got to get his footing again, but he's already said he's keeping in place the hiring freeze. We need custodians.
Yes, we do.
You've said that a lot. So now I'm glad there's smiles on their faces, but let's hope those roles are working better now, and there's more people to go around, and maybe the hiring freeze was just in other areas and not necessarily for everywhere.
I'm glad you mentioned hiring freeze, because I saw today on Instagram, Disneyland is having a job fair. Now, I didn't look to see what roles they were trying to fill. There were jobs they were trying to fill, rather. But I did see that advertised on Instagram today.
Okay, that's good.
So,
that's good to hear.
And remember,
that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, but remember, this was a targeted hiring freeze, which means not every department or section of a department is going to be, in a freeze.
Froze?
Let's say, I'm just going to use this as an example. security guards leave for whatever reason, you can't go without security guards. You have to replace them, or security. Shouldn't say guards, security. Same thing with people the cast members that work in the parks, guest relations. They need people to run that. Well, I definitely think, John, you hit it on the head. Cast members is the first place he has to start. He's going to have his foot and hands on everything for a while, because there's so many things that need to be brought back to where it was when he left, and then move forward from there.
Well, he's got to establish priorities and, urgency and importance. He doesn't have to make all the individual decisions, but if he has, if he says to his leadership, our cast members have to be comfortable, happy, enjoying their jobs so that they can make a better experience for the guests. That's the kind of direction he can set. He doesn't have to micromanage, but he has to say the magic is not as good as it could be because our cast members don't have the level of support they need.
Yep. I know there's a lot of complaining, it's not just at Disney, it's everywhere, complaining about wages, that they're too low. Everybody's always going to complain about wages, and companies, it's not always about paying somebody more money per hour. Yes, that goes a long way, but that only does so much for you until the prices again go up wherever they are. A lot of companies use bonuses.
I was going to say any other benefits.
And this is why companies like to use bonuses. If you give somebody a raise, that raise stays with the employee forever, as long as they're working for that business. If you give them a bonus because you've had a good year one year and the next year you have a pretty lousy year, there may not be a bonus. So the bonus doesn't guarantee anything, but a bonus to an employee does say a lot. It shows a company's appreciation for them and how hard they've worked to make the company a success. So with a company like Disney, the likelihood they're going to have a bad year is small, at least in the parks. So if you promise them bonuses, let's say, I'm not saying he's going to do this, that could go a long way to show, especially around the holidays, showing the appreciation. And they might be doing that right now. I don't know.
But those bonuses usually are for like a management position. You don't see bonuses going to the average cast member.
Maybe they need to do, if they're not doing that, and like I said, I do not know this, maybe they need to do something like that in the future so they feel appreciated. Give the cast members incentives to succeed, and that starts with training too.
Well, the leadership has to understand what it is that makes the cast members feel appreciated and supported, and those are the things where they need to strengthen. So it may not be cash, or it may not be just cash. There's a lot of things. So, but they have, that's their role.
Yeah,
they have to understand what it is that will make them feel whole and make them want to go out and provide magic to them.
Right, and the cast member has to understand it's not a one-way street.
No, sure.
Management will support them, but they've got to give back as well. They've got, you're paid to do a job. You're not paid to just take your paycheck and go home.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they've really got to get back to the training the way it was prior to the pandemic. I know, the biggest complaint I heard from cast members, and I'm talking about cast members that have been with Disney for years that were affected by the pandemic, that when they went back to work, they were put in positions they were never trained for. They were in roles that they were not accustomed to, and just said, go have fun. Part of it was an emergency. They had no choice. They had to put people wherever they could. But part of it was a different style of management that did not go over too well with the cast members. So I definitely think if you make the cast members happier, and something else cast members and anybody working anywhere has to understand, there's no such thing as fair. They can be as fair as possible, but there's no such thing as fair. What they may do for one cast member, they may not be able to for another cast member for a variety of reasons. So the cast members have to understand and know what their roles are day in and day out. Don't just throw somebody to the wolves. I've seen that in businesses also through the years. you throw somebody to the wolves. You don't explain to these people why they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Just go. That's not fair to the employee either. But if they spell things out, train everybody properly so they can succeed, and management backs them up. Disney's in a place where, you want the guests to always be right. Well, sometimes the guests aren't right. And we've seen cast members mistreated, severely mistreated. And, as long as they know management backs them up, and that doesn't mean they have to side with them in front of the guests, but they back them up so they can succeed in their job and do their job properly and handle the guests that might not be so nice the way they need to be handled to just, I guess, diffuse whatever situation they're in. I think they'll appreciate that. I know there's another theme park, not Universal, but there's another theme park, I'm not even going to mention where it is, where their staff was quitting because management wouldn't back them up.
I know exactly where you're talking about, and I was going to bring it up, but without naming names. They were asked to enforce something, and when they enforced it, and the guest would the people would come in and complain, the management wasn't backing up the the employee. I don't even want to call him a cast member because it's not. So the management wasn't backing the employer. The manager was backing the person that was attending. I don't even want to call him a guest.
Right. No,
so,
don't call him a guest.
Yeah, it was people that were going to the park, and they weren't getting any support at all. And people were like, I'm not, no matter how much money you're being paid, I'm not being paid enough to be treated like dirt.
Right.
Which is what was happening. And they're like, see ya.
Yep. But that was not Disney. I want to make that perfect clear. Or Universal. I absolutely want to make that perfect.
No, I've always, similar situations happened at Disney, and their management backed them up in this. And for this particular type of incident, management was backing up their cast members.
Yeah.
So,
beyond the cast members, I think that, and you guys can disagree and tell me what you think, but I think if we're in the parks, the next thing they have to do is stop treating guests like consumers and treating them like guests. You want them to spend their money, but you want them to enjoy themselves so they want to spend their money and not feel forced to spend the money. Like you go on vacation, and you say, wow, I've got to bring back a t-shirt. Get something you want. Get something for people that, because you've had such a great time, you're really into it, you think they're going to love. Like I got this t-shirt when I went to Disneyland a few years back. And it's not because, I had to buy a t-shirt. That's part of it. No, but it's, I wanted something that reminded me of my vacation experience there.
Yeah.
That I could just, every time I put it on, it reminds me of that trip. And they're all good memories.
Exactly. And I was going to say that even like bringing with a cast member concept of what we were talking about, Disney they always set themselves apart. If you're walking around Epcot, there was always something happening. And when they got rid of all that extra entertainment,
like
you look at the stage and people are like, what happened there? And that's where the entertainment was. So even though we really didn't stop and watch it a lot, you were always seeing it. It was always there. If you wanted to, you could stop. And there were always people there that you saw having fun. Now you're just not, it's missing.
Yeah, well, that's what made you part of the story as a guest. And we were talking about that before the show. You were saying, Stuart, that's what sets Disney apart is that they're storytellers.
Yep.
That's what Walt wanted from the parks.
One thing I noticed yesterday when I was in the parks, there was a lot of and I keep saying the parks, I mean in Disney's Hollywood Studios, there was a lot of entertainment there, but it was all for the holidays. I don't want to see that go away.
Right.
When the holidays are over, don't get rid of those cast members. Give them something else to do in the parks. Have them do different kind of performances. Bring back Streetmosphere, for God's sakes.
Right.
Or something like them. there's a lot of things that Disney can do in the parks to enhance the magic and make it the experience that maybe we didn't have when we were younger or have now, but that our kids will have, and their kids and their kids, that will bring them joy and want to come back. The worst thing an executive can do, and I'm not going to mention the person's name, although we know who we're talking about. It's not the current CEO. The worst thing an executive can do is not care whether somebody comes back to their business to spend money there. When you go after the very rich to spend the money, that you raise prices so only certain groups of people can afford it, and you cut out other people, you're cutting your own throat. It may work today, but a year from now, 2 years from now, maybe 5 years from now, if the economy takes a turn for the worse, and we're headed into a recession in all likelihood, God, I hope not, then you're going to be starving for people. And if enough people are complaining that they had such a bad experience and they're not going to go back, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to tell their friends, who will tell their friends and family, and you're going to lose out. It's the mentality that an amusement park of a chain amusement park has right now, and it's not working there. And it's never going to work at Disney. So, something had to be done there. And
Well, one of the things that I was thinking about related to the cast members that I think is important, and it's a lower level detail, but we can't feel the magic for going into the parks if the cast members themselves can't get into the parks.
Yep.
So I think they need to allow the cast members to go to the parks whenever they want to. So
Yep,
that's
I agree.
part of making them feel valued, but that's one of the big reasons why a lot of the cast members are working there.
Yeah.
Their affinity for
Right.
the parks and the brand. So
Well,
why not let them in?
not only that, I can't tell you. You can tell when someone's a cast member, even if they're like just visiting, is what I mean. You can kind of tell who some of the cast members are, just how they interact with people. I've never been afraid if it's something that, I'm not going to walk up to someone and go, "Hey, you're a cast member. I know you're off duty, but you need to help me with this." But I've never been afraid to hold a conversation with someone if the opportunity arises, because they're helping us get more it's spreading the joy more.
They're providing the magic even when they're not working.
That's right.
Because they know the information we don't know. So it's something as simple as, please tell me the progression of Tron. Oh my gosh, I was over in Magic Kingdom yesterday. It is so cool. I got to see people actually doing it, or I got to ride it. I was so excited. They used me as a human crash dummy.
Yeah.
We don't see that now because they're not allowed in.
They're the biggest ambassador.
That's right.
For the
Bingo.
product.
That's right. Yeah, it's I feel like we're doing a service for people that are out there that are Disney fans or want to go to Disney, but really it's the cast members. They're they're the official ambassadors to Disney.
Oh, yeah.
A cast member said something to me not too long ago. It was about 2 months ago. Said to me, "I used to love going to work. They ruined the magic for me." They being how management has been treating them.
Upper management.
And I think you've seen an immediate change already there in a very short period of time, but they've got a long way to go.
Yeah, they've got to back it up and perpetuate it so that it's not taken for granted. It's not some temporary, euphoria. It's real and it's sustainable.
Yeah.
Right.
Where I live, there are a lot of current and former cast members here. And the ones that have worked for Disney over a long period of time have seen the changes. They're reluctant to say anything negative about Disney, but you can tell something has been wrong because they're not as positive as they were when we first moved in here.
And that wasn't that long ago.
No, so we're talking 2.5 years, not even 3 yet. And when we first moved in, they were positive, gung ho. It's a bad time. We'll get through it. It's going to be great. Now they just don't talk about it as much. They won't say anything bad, but they're not giving you
They're not defending.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. They're not defending it. Yeah, their silence is golden, unfortunately.
Right.
And I think universally, I can tell you this: everybody here, universally, cast members or not, were thrilled Iger's coming back. I mean, absolutely thrilled. But you have to remember, he started raising prices, and he's running a business, and we've all got to remember that. But he did it in a way where you might complain a little bit here and there, but you were getting something back. You felt appreciated. Always felt appreciated.
Right now, as my wife put this, because I asked my wife about it, I go, here's what we're talking about. What do you think? And she goes, what I'd like to see change, I'd like to come back to catering to the family.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, it feels like they were catering to the 1%ers.
Yep. Absolutely.
It was the 1%ers, even at $15. Now, because I told her flat out, I go, hey, Iger's the one that was starting Genie Plus. So we can't say they're not going to be charging for that. And she goes, but $15 a person for a day for a family of 4 is a meal. You just took a meal away from a family to be able to afford Genie Plus. If you are going on a vacation and you really feel like you need to use Genie Plus. And we've already discussed how we don't need to use it every day, but that's a meal that you're taking away from the average family. We're not talking about the 1%ers. For them, that's like a drop in a bucket. I was glad to see it was a temporary thing. It is back down to 15. We discussed that last week where the price went up, and we knew the price was going to go up for the holidays. That was a little bit higher than anyone liked, but it has come back down to 15. I'd like to see how long it stays there at 15 and at what point we're at in the summer are going to raise it up to 17, 22, 25.
It'll be interesting to see. Now, a couple of points I want to make here. Iger did come out and say that. Well, I'm sorry, he didn't say it. Well, he may have said it, but people came out and said that he had said that he was not happy with the penny pinching that Chapek was doing and squeezing people out of cash. Those weren't his exact words, or those weren't the exact words of the people saying that he said that, but I've heard that from multiple sources that he was not happy with that. The other thing was I was in Epcot the day after Thanksgiving, so last Friday, and Genie Plus was $29. My daughter was in for a few days. It was the only day she could go to the parks. There were certain things she wanted to do. We were not spending $29 per person because it's just an outrageous amount. She got on Ratatouille. We had to wait almost 2.5. It said 2 hours. We had to wait 2.5 hours to get on Ratatouille.
You're kidding.
No, and then the ride broke down right after that.
She wanted
to go on Frozen.
We know how long that shuts down for.
Yeah, she wanted to go on Frozen. Frozen was closed almost the entire day, like from the late morning, early afternoon on.
Well, that's not good.
Well, so that is one of the things that I have on my list that Disney needs to focus on to make things more magical. And you talked about custodians. Well, they need maintenance. They need to keep their attractions up and running longer, because every time they go down, it just makes the lines longer and the waits longer. So they need to make especially their headliner attractions more reliable to manage the guests and the guest flow better.
But you know what, John? It's also how they're handling Genie Plus. And I think you brought up something last week that I think you're absolutely right about, and I'm going to expand on that a little bit too. If they guaranteed people purchasing Genie Plus 3 attractions per day, a minimum of 3 attractions, that would go a long way. If they limited, which you had mentioned, the number that they sell, that would go a long way. And if the distribution were a lot more even actually, than it is right now, you could have large crowds in the parks, manage them, and keep everybody happy.
Yeah, I also have managing the distribution better without using Genie Plus, but you also have to have the attractions for the distribution to work.
Absolutely.
My wife said the same thing with all of the above. She's like, fine, you want to do Genie Plus, limit the number that you're selling so it's not going to overload the attractions. Limit how many Genie Pluses you're going to hand out, how many lightning lanes you're handing out each hour so that it can go both ways for people. So that, yes, you got a Genie, yours and your Genie Plus, here's your lightning lane, come at this time, but it's not. I mean, if 3,000 people can go through attraction in 1 hour, you're not sending through 2,900 and only leaving room for 100 people that don't have Genie Plus.
Yeah, I agree with you, but there's a huge challenge there. The other side of it is, people now, they try to get a Genie Plus time, so there is the demand out there for Genie Plus. So the trade-off is, and I agree with limiting it, but the trade-off is the more you limit it, the more people are going to be upset because they can't get it. So it's not an easy answer. And again, I agree with you. It's got its challenges.
What about, I forgot what they called it. They had in Disneyland before it became Genie Plus. They were calling it. Do you remember what they used to call when they started
the Magic Pass?
The Magic Pass. Now, if they went back to
Max
something,
Pass.
Max Pass.
Right. If they did something like that, that was working, even though they were charging guests. Would that be something they?
Well,
could
that was, and that was $15 and included your photo pass with it, which would be sweet.
Yeah,
rather
than liked it
the
there.
separate price.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it would go. I don't know. I think it's worth trying. I don't know what the difference is in the guest usage would be between the two. I definitely liked using it in Disneyland when they had that.
They definitely have to do something. They're not going to give up this new revenue stream.
That's the problem. Yep.
They're not going to give that up.
Yeah.
But there are ways they can implement it further so it works well for guests and for them. And I think we've touched on a lot of those things. Whether it's limiting the number of sales, and yes, you'll get people complaining they couldn't get it, but when they get through the attractions in, let's say, 45 minutes instead of an hour and 45 minutes, that complaining will go away.
Right. Now, back onto the maintenance.
Yeah, that's a big issue.
They always, they used to paint, they used to do this. There was some overkill. I get it. There was too much going on. But it felt like it went from being a proactive maintenance to let's check it every day. Let's make sure everything's fixed. Let's make sure everything's working, to reactive. Well, it looks like it's not going to work, or it looks like we should be able to get through the day. Let's get through these next couple of days, and then we'll see if we're going to work on it or not. We'll wait for it to break before we fix it. They're not working on the hours a night to get something fixed.
They're not. You're right. They're doing things during the day in the parks that they used to do overnight.
Yeah.
Flower and Garden last year, I couldn't believe it. They were out with the carts, with the plants,
in the day,
putting them in during the day. Yeah. You never would have seen that a few years ago, ever. It would have been in the middle of the night, and the next day, everything would have been magically there.
That was the magic. Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
We were on the line for Ratatouille for a long time, so we got to notice a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard so many complaints about the garbage in the parks, and you try to ignore it, but there was so much of it around, and you could see it had been laying there for not just a few hours, for days. The dirt, the dust on these things. It's just like, really? There's nobody around to pick this stuff up?
Well, but we also talked about that earlier. If you are supporting your cast members and they're feeling motivated and empowered, that's going to reap rewards there, that you're going to find somebody who's not assigned to do it that is doing it anyway.
Well, just walk over, you see it on the ground, you pick it up. We were taught how to do that.
Yep.
And you felt pride in your job. So if something was, look, there's a wrapper, you bent over and you picked up the wrapper because you wanted it to look clean.
You know what? It's easy for me to say this now that he's gone, but I think there was such a disdain for Bob Chapek over the last year or so, that by the cast members, that they were just there. It stopped being about them going to work for Disney for, this big, great
love of
company.
Disney.
And it's a job. And Disney's always been more than just a job. And I think Iger will restore that. And that in turn will help us as guests going into the park. It goes back to what we started talking about at the beginning of the show. It's going to take time.
Correct.
It's going to take time. And the way companies make money is spending money. But they've got to figure out how to make more money in certain sectors, and we'll get into that shortly, like Disney Plus and ESPN Plus, that'll feed their other entities. And it shouldn't be solely on the feet of the parks to be their true revenue source. It never should be just the parks. It should be a combination of everything. And I think they're hurting in a couple of places. They got a boon at Disney Plus by the pandemic because people were staying in, staying home, and they got all these subscribers. But they lost money last year. And, supposedly yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, you touched on it earlier, the whole penny pinching, trying to take the money from people. When you outright or change, or when you're raising prices just to raise prices, and that's how he was. It's basically what he came right out and said he was going to do.
Yep.
You don't always get the response you want, and I think that's part of what happened with Disney Plus. If you're only catering to, I'm not saying they did this, but if you only are pushing all the Marvel stuff, or you're only pushing all the Star Wars stuff, and okay, this month it's only Marvel stuff coming out, or just Star Wars, but you're not really catering to everybody. People are going to get it for a month, binge watch next month's Mandalorian, get out.
Yep.
They're not going to keep going to watch over and over again.
I agree with
and then when you raise the prices just because, hey, it's a new year, we have to raise the price. No, you don't. But they will.
When a CEO comes in, a new CEO comes in, one of the things they're trying to do is make as much money as they can in the quarter they're in, and they're making their money. So if they get fired after, and I think I've mentioned this before, after 2 or 3 years, they don't care. They've made their money and they're out of there. But
they want to show they're better than the previous person.
Yeah, you need to have a vision going forward. So when you leave, the next person can pick up where you left off and take the company to the next highest, or the next step forward, or maybe a few steps forward. And that has to keep going. And that's growing the magic also. I think some things that they could do at Disney Plus, I think the Elton John live event was one of the great things they've done on there. I think they need to do more things like that. I'd like to see them do more shows promoting the parks and their other businesses.
Well, and that just helps them anyway. That's brand affinity right there.
Yep. And even have a live channel that you can't, like they have Disney on cable networks and satellite. Start a live channel there that you can only get that programming there. Like when The Mandalorian comes out, have the premiere show at a certain time each week. And if you can't make that time, well, then you've got to wait till the next day to see it. Make people want to go to your streaming service. And I'm not saying that's the right answer, but there's a bunch of things that can
part of it. One of the things that I thought of related to Disney Plus and the streaming is how about some of the other opportunities you have across your brand, like in the resorts at the parks. So why don't you allow your resort guests to get Disney Plus in the resort room? And that could get them interested. And or at the very least, if you are a Disney Plus subscriber, you should be able to sign into it in your resort room.
Yeah.
Without having to take.
You know what else would make people just ecstatic and bring the smile back?
Yeah.
That's
what we're talking about is magic. And it fits together. When you're a Disney fan, it all connects.
Absolutely. And
we need Stacy back.
Yep. Yeah, I miss Stacy. But what I'd like to see them do too is why not have even if it's a weekly show on the resorts, on DVC, promote your stuff on the Disney Cruise Line.
Inside Out.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. And it's inexpensive.
That's right.
When it comes to cost for streaming, you don't get cheaper than that.
Yep.
Okay. Time out now. Go way back. We're talking 20 years. Does anyone remember you used to be able to go onto the internet and it was like a simple click right on the Disney. I think it was off of one of the Disney websites. They had a camera that just It was right there on the Magic King, right there on Cinderella Castle, and you could just see what was going on.
Yeah.
There's just a live stream.
Oh yeah.
What-
Yep. They should go back to doing that for each
Put the-
park.
Main Street USA music in the background. Have it right next to the speakers so it drowns out if someone says something inappropriate. And just show that all day long.
Believe it or not, I'm sorry, I don't mean to change the subject. We promise we will get right back to this. But this is also with Disney Plus. One of the complaints I've heard from some people is that they have a lot of things on there that are 5 minutes long. That's it. They don't want to see it. It doesn't hold their interest enough to stay with something. So maybe string some of these shorts together into a show so you've got a half hour's worth at least. But
well, you can watch Mickey Through the Years, and it'll show the first one, and then when that one's done, it does pop up. I think the next thing saying next.
Yeah, I know, but people are seeing these 5-minute shorts, and it's not holding their interest. At least that's what I'm hearing around here, and they just move on to something else, and it's just they're out of it. They get out of the streaming service because they went in there to see something, they saw it for a couple of minutes, but it didn't sustain them long. Well, I shouldn't say it didn't sustain them. They wanted something longer to sustain them. That's what I meant to say. And it didn't. But there are so many. Getting back to what we were talking about before, there are so many things they can do with Disney Plus to cross-sell, pique interest for people who are going on vacation to Disney, who want to come back to Disney again. And John, you're right. They can do it very cheaply. Let's say you start your own Disney Plus channel of live shows that you can't get anywhere else. Not everything, not 100%, but let's say even 50% of them, of the shows on there. They're going to be on a certain time of the day. There might be something. It could be a talk show that's just about Disney. It could be a resort show, a DVC show, a cruise line show. It's something that people will tune into because they're looking for that information. It may be, like I've got a great travel planner, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. I've got a great travel planner, but there's some questions I have. They've answered the questions, great, and I've got the information I need, but I'd like to see something where you've got a Disney cruise show on about the Wish. They can take you into the rooms. They can give you
virtual
the
tours.
Yeah. There's so
all
much
this
they
stuff.
can do.
There's even hitting on that. When you walk into your resort room, as John was saying, you can't get Disney Plus, but man, are they pushing Disney Vacation Club. They're showing you the stuff for the parks. They're showing you How about having some of that available on Disney Plus at home? Let's get excited while we're home. And it, it doesn't have to be, it would be a 24/7. It's on demand, but make something like that on demand to bring some of the magic so that people are like, yes, it's a sales pitch. I know it. I get it. But
it's a sales pitch that people want to hear.
It's something that they wanted to see.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Disney used to have these if you were a Disney Channel subscriber with certain cable companies, the cable company I had in Jersey had this. They had Disney On Demand, and the On Demand had programs on the cruise lines, on Adventures by Disney. They had other things. And I ate that stuff up because I wanted to see it, and it was never enough. They'd have a show on, I'd see it, or 2 shows on a topic, and then I'm done. It's like, I want more.
Well, there's so many people on YouTube that here, if I'm looking for information about what a Bay Lake Tower resort looks like, I either have to go to Bay Lake or go to my Disney Vacation Club resort and look it up, and they'll give me a little information. But I get more information by going to somebody else who's doing the tour.
Yeah.
Doesn't take much to hire a camera crew, let them walk around for a couple months, produce it.
And you know what? There are a lot of people out there that are giving, if they, sometimes they'll oversell something, sometimes they'll undersell something. They're giving their opinions on things. I want somebody to go through, give me the facts, tell me what's there, what I can look forward to. You can do it in a very positive way to get me excited without giving me a lot of BS.
And
I
I know
think,
there are some things that aren't evergreen about Disney. Yes, they could make that, and by the time it's designed, all of a sudden, you know what? We got to redo these rooms, and now they're not that anymore. So you get there and it's different. And I get that it's not a forever thing,
yep.
Well,
but
but
give me
it's just like
something.
anything, it has to evolve and change over time. You don't put out some content and just leave it sit there for the next 10 years.
They used to do the
Yep.
video every year, or the CD, or the DVD,
Oh
or
yeah,
whatever it was.
Yep.
Do they even
I
do
love
that
that.
anymore?
I
I've
don't know.
still
I
got them.
don't
My
know.
wife's like, "Why do you still have these
It's
memories?"
an archive.
I
Yeah,
love those. I got rid of mine, unfortunately, when we moved here. I think I kept a
I've still
couple.
got them. She's
Yeah,
like, "Why do you have this?" I go, "Let's go. Let's look at how much this place has changed."
Mm.
yeah,
So they have that available on
yeah.
Disney
Well,
Plus
right, they could have an archive section of the service to go back and look at those things.
through the years.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
You
they
know
do
what
it
I'd
with the
love to
Mickey
see?
cartoons.
And you know what I'd love to see? Bob Iger is the CEO. Once a month, sit down and almost have like a fireside chat with us as consumer. I don't want to use the word as guests,
Uncle Uncle Bob.
yeah, as subscribers to Disney Plus. Talk to us. Tell us what's going on. What where the company is, where it's going.
Eisner did that every once in a while.
Yeah, he
He
did.
used to give the tours and stuff.
Yeah, but you know
So
what?
Iger has.
He's got the platform. Yeah, he has done, but I'd like to see on a monthly basis. Like even if it's for 15 minutes. Get us
We got
worked up
nothing to
to come
say, but
back.
hey, come back next month.
Yeah. Um, there's so much they can do. And the parks. We were talking about the resorts. Getting to the resort, they got rid of Magical Express, and I
Oh,
get it
yeah,
was a cost
transportation thing.
saving.
Yep.
I get that was to save cost, but bring it back. Maybe not make it free, but make it affordable because you want people in your resort and staying on property. I know it's easy to get an Uber or I forgot the other name of the
Lyft.
company, Lyft,
Left.
yeah, and go someplace else. But do everything you can when that guest gets on property, they're staying at Disney and they have no reason to leave. They used to do that, and I think they need to do that again. It's like I hate when somebody says, "Oh, I'm going to Disney for 3 days, then I'm going to spend 3 days at Universal." It's like Universal sucks. Why are you going for?
Well, and there's other things that they can do with transportation to improve the magic. So the bus service. I mean, we've all had our challenges with the bus service. So I think, and I don't know what the answer is, but I think if they were able to improve the bus service, they would improve the magic for the guests. And we've talked about the Skyliner.
Mhm.
Are there any additions? The Skyliner is a hit. People will stay in specific resorts because of the Skyliner.
Absolutely.
They're probably paying more now for
They
those
are.
resorts.
Yeah.
So, it could be a win-win if
Mhm.
they can find the right extension to the Skyliner too.
Yeah. A part of the problem with the bus.
This is my complaint about the Skyliner. Hold on, timeout, Stuart. Let me hop in on this
Uh-oh.
one. This is my complaint about that Skyliner. It's a great form of transportation. They didn't have bus drivers, so they created the Skyliner and they sent them to the majority of the areas where the majority of the people, you got your moderate resort, and it feeds to two of the major value resorts. As soon as the Skyliner went in, they didn't need to send buses to those resorts anymore. So it saved them money on having cast members certify the drive, which it takes like 3 months to get certified, which is why it's
Okay.
so hard to get bus drivers.
Yep.
So it was a benefit to them just to put the Skyliners in so that they wouldn't have to hire all these other people. And they took advantage of it and they jumped the prices of those resorts by at least $50 to $100, if not more, over what people were paying in those same resorts.
Uh,
And that's not right.
Now you mentioned something that, yeah, you're absolutely right. That's not right, and I hope that's something they change. But you mentioned something about it takes 3 months to get certified. There's a Florida state law
That's
that
what it is.
does not allow bus drivers or bus drivers in training to be paid at the level they would be paid once they get their certification. So it's at a level where a lot of people are saying, I cannot afford to be paid this low a wage for 3 months before getting licensed to drive a bus. And so it becomes a catch-22 for Disney.
Yeah.
They need the transportation, they need the drivers, but they can't get people willing to, and I'm going to say suffer for 3 months at low wages.
That's what it is.
To get their certification. So
that's exactly what it is.
It's
so again, that's the whole reason why they created the Skyliner. And instead they took advantage of that and said, we're going to charge you more because look at the convenience we just gave you.
Yeah, it's
not right.
They have to make money. They're going to do what they can to make as much money as they can. But they can do it, I don't want to say better, but they can do it in ways that are more proficient for them, that aren't as painful for us, the guests, and that will but do it in ways we're willing to pay for some. If you're getting great quality, I'll give you an example. Ralph Lauren clothing, great quality. It costs more. Why does it cost more? Because you're getting better quality than you would if you walked into, Walmart and bought a Hanes shirt. And I'm not saying Hanes is bad. I don't want to say that. I do not want to say that. I have plenty of Hanes
generic shirt.
Oh, they're good.
It's just a generic shirt. Hanes makes a good quality shirt.
But Ralph Lauren and other brands like that, or Coach, they're considered premier level quality companies. So is Disney. So your expectation is you're getting premier quality, and you're willing to pay extra for premier quality if you're getting it in return. But when you start getting inferior quality, how many complaints I've heard from people. I love the food at Disney. I do have a few places, third-party places, not ones run by Disney, that I'm not crazy about. But for the most part, I love the food at Disney, and even I have noticed the quality level in certain foods in certain places over the last couple of years has diminished because they're cutting costs, because their costs have risen. So they're kind of between a rock and a hard place too, because they need to make a profit. But for people to be willing to pay for it day in and day out, they've got to give you quality. Now, for a family coming for a week, you go to a restaurant that maybe isn't so great. You have the meal there and, okay, it's not as good as I heard it was or thought it would be. They may not be back for years. So, okay, so what? You're selling out. But you want the word to get out that people are happy with their meals, happy with the quality, happy with the service. And, it's like you said, John, it starts with cast members. People will be willing to pay more for quality service so they can still make their profit.
Yeah, they wouldn't have a product if people weren't willing to do that.
Yeah,
correct. Stuart wants Happy Meals with the toy.
Look what they did at D23 this year. They made people spend all this money to find out there was nothing new coming to Disney World. Well, maybe we'll do this. Maybe we'll do that. Bullshit.
Oh.
Maybe we'll build a village there.
You knock on D23. I'm just kidding. We've certainly heard that sentiment earlier.
And you know what? With Iger there, that never would have happened. There would have been something, even if it was one thing, there would have been something that would have drawn people in and say, wow, this is the best D23 convention I've ever been to.
Well, right. So, it's getting to what we talked about before, and that is the way to provide magic and to grow your business is not to cut back on spending. It's not, it's not the penny pinch. So some of the other things that I see, so we talked about, improving reliability of the attractions. I think they also have to invest in new attractions and expand the park. So finish some of the things in Epcot and some of the things that they've taken off the board. They have to move. So we talked about distribution. We talked about reliability of attractions. But to be able to have a good distribution, you still need to have more things to take people's attention and to spread them out. So I think they need to increase the investment there to build
absolutely.
their product
Right.
and
You know
make
what?
it magical for guests.
It's not always what's always said at D23 isn't exactly what ends up there.
Yeah.
We know they've had to change things. When they talked about New Tomorrow or New Fantasyland, initially with everything that they were discussing that was going into there, it sounded great, except for that my boys weren't at all excited
Yeah.
about
Right. It was more
Pixie
for
Hollow, and it was everything about the princesses.
yeah.
And they
Or
thought they had this huge thing. And then so basically they took the feedback from that and went, okay, maybe we should rethink this. I guess I didn't really think about the fact that if you've got two boys instead of two girls, this
Mhm.
isn't going to help them very much. So they adjusted, and you can do that. But when you just say,
Yeah.
well, we were thinking maybe we would do this, or possibly we could do
Yeah.
that. Well,
These
hey,
blue
you've
sky
been doing
ideas.
that for your blue sky ideas. These are ideas that have been on ever since this movie came out. You're blue skied about it, saying where can we do? Oh, maybe we'll put it over there. Let's see what people want.
You know what?
Wrong way to present
The
it.
redoing of Epcot was Bob Iger's vision. And look how much has changed since he left. Will it go back to to what he wanted? I don't know. But but the point I'm trying to make is he has a vision for the parks that isn't just for today. He knows that for them to succeed as a company going forward, he has to have a vision going into tomorrow and the tomorrow's past that. That it's not about just today and how to make the board happy today. Yes, you want to make the board happy today, but you want the board to be happy tomorrow as well. You want the board to keep making enough money or enough profit, enough profit so that they want to remain on the board. So they want to keep the company growing. Because when you start losing sight of what Walt created and what the vision is for Disney guests and for the company, you don't have a Disney anymore.
Well, and one of the things that got pulled from Epcot was there was that double decker party
Yep.
palace. I don't know what they even call it. I forgot what it was
Yeah.
about. And I think the big complaint was you can't see Spaceship Earth with that thing. You know, the big complaint right now is the barges in the middle of the lake. You can't. This barge is taking away my view.
Yeah.
Well, if that thing had been built, the same thing would have happened, and it would have been permanent. These barges might be disappearing, hopefully.
Yeah, I think they will be. I don't know for sure that I haven't heard, but we know Harmonious is going away, and hopefully the barges will go away with it.
I'm going to a Harmonious dessert party next week, or this weekend, I guess it is.
Now, when you shed a tear, would it be a tear of it going a tear from it going away, or will it be a tear of I can't wait to see my lake again?
Well, I'll be shedding a tear when my desserts are gone, and but then I know I have
no more food.
I have the Disney wish to which I can look forward. So that
this is true.
That'll be short lived. So
and think about this too with bring or growing magic in the parks. If somebody has a magical experience in the parks, and when I say a magical experience, it could just be an ordinary day in the parks where they're just so immersed in everything going around them that when they get home to wherever they live, they're going to tell their neighbors who may never have been to Disney, yeah, it costs a lot of money, but you know what? The smiles that I saw on my kids' faces I can't get that out. That it's ingrained or engraved in my mind. I can't get rid of their smiles. I can't wait to go back and see it again.
Right. If you're still smiling after spending the money, that means to you it was the right value.
Mm-hmm. I'm tired. Go ahead.
Yeah, we got. I forgot what it even was. We had something shipped to the front, and when we went to pick it up, my wife, it was like, congratulations, you were. They pixie dusted her, and they gave her this pin. It's nothing. I mean, it's a pin. It probably cost them less than 50 cents, but it was something that we didn't pay for, That's all you got to do.
Well,
That's gone right now.
well,
It
and
is gone.
so the cast members need to feel empowered. They need to be reminded and reinforced that they are empowered to make magic for people by doing those kinds of things. That's a big way that the magic
Mhm.
will grow, is if that message is given to them again and reinforced. And
If they can't spread pixie dust, they're not gonna
Yeah.
feel it.
Yep. You're absolutely right.
if cast members are recognized and rewarded for doing that,
Mhm.
Yes.
that's the circle of life for magic,
Yep.
baby.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, I'm trying to think. I know there was other things I wanted to talk about. Oh, ESPN Plus and Fox. That Fox was a big purchase by Iger.
Yeah.
And I can almost guarantee, without knowing anything, and I know nothing, that his vision of where he wanted to take Fox, that no one's done anything with it since he left. I can almost guarantee that without knowing anything.
Well, and yeah, he's the one that made that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
But
he had a game plan there.
yeah, yeah.
but he only bought part of Fox. He didn't buy all of Fox
No,
because
no.
he only
No.
bought
But
stuff
No,
that
he-
would give him more
$71
stuff for
billion
Disney Plus.
is a big part of it, though.
Yeah, he didn't get the Sky Network, which I know they wanted.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
Universal wound up getting that.
yeah.
But he was trying to get a foothold in Europe too with it. But there's still a lot he can do with Fox that I'm sure he will do with now that he's back. And ESPN Plus, there was a time, if Chapek was still there, my response to all this would be sell ESPN Plus, sell Fox. But with Iger back, I want to see what he wants to do with it, where he wants to take it. I'm excited to where he wants to take it.
Yeah, I mean, he needs to communicate that to the right leaders, because he can't make it happen. He doesn't
No,
have
he
the
can't.
time to make it happen.
He can't. And you have to hope. And here's the tricky part: whoever they pick to succeed Iger, I'm sure Chapek, when he was going through the process, was giving the right answers to whatever questions were being asked. I'm sure he was a great employee, but not all employees who can give great answers and work at a premium level are great leaders or great visionaries. They've got to find somebody who, and it's always a risk, but they've got to find somebody who they see the potential there. They see the brain burning
Mhm.
and the smoke coming out of the ears, knowing that this person has a vision, whether it's Iger's vision that he shares or something that can take it to another level and keep the company growing, which in turn will keep the magic growing down the road. It's tough. I know last week we mentioned Tom Skaggs in-house. I forgot her name. She's the head of entertainment. She might be the logical choice. The head of ESPN, I forgot his name. The executive who Chapek got rid of, foolishly, I might add. What's his name? Price. If they bring him back, he's another choice. Maybe there's somebody we don't even know.
It sounded like there were a couple people that weren't yes men that were let go because heaven
Yes.
forbid they said this
Yeah.
isn't going to work. This isn't going to work, and this is why I don't believe it's going to work.
Well, the first one.
If you don't believe it's going to work, then you could leave. Well, yeah, but you got to have checks and balances.
Yep. Well, look what happened over the last 2 years without Iger there. You had a person who had a finance background making decisions for the creative end of the company. And that's not good because you're not giving them, when their hands are tied for the product they want to put out there, you're not getting the product that we deserve as guests.
Yeah, you can communicate to creative leaders the
Mhm.
importance of providing the right value and managing costs, but you can't communicate to somebody who is good at financials how to be creative.
Right. It's like, I know a lot of sports teams have gone to analytics because they give me statistics that, well, if you pitch to this guy this way, he's not going to hit it. If you play this shortstop over at second base, that's where he hits it most of the time. You'll get him out. But sometimes it doesn't work. So you can't always go by that textbook analytical knowledge that you've been given. Yes, it's helpful. Sometimes you have to go with your gut too. And creative people often go, their minds work differently.
Well, they perceive things, and and to us it looks like well, they're going with some gut feeling, but they're perceiving the other factors that make a difference. And what you're saying is you're looking at the whole picture, not just some cold hard analytics.
Yep, absolutely.
You needed two people. When you had Eisner there, Eisner had his financial person. So
Frank
Eisner
Wells
would go, "We're going to do this," and Wells would go,
Yeah.
"Hold on, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
We're doing this. We'll get there, but it's not as quickly as you want."
Roy and Walt.
You need one of you. When Walt said, "I'm building this," and Roy said, "We're doing it this way," and then Walt would send Roy on vacation and say, "Okay, build it." But you still had checks and balances.
Yes.
When all you have is, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah,
we don't have any money for it? Okay, we'll cut costs over here somewhere else. That's not how business is done.
Yeah, and you can't go to Pixar and say, okay, you want to make a new animated movie? It's going to cost, you think it's going to cost $25 million to make? We're only going to give you $1 million. Make it work. It doesn't work that way.
But there's another, they named the last Pixar hit in the last couple of years. Major hit. What happened? I don't know. Or the Disney cartoons. What happened to our creativity? Because I'm not seeing movies I want to necessarily go and see.
I think part of the problem is, and I don't remember if we discussed this here or not, or if I heard this somewhere else, the remakes of movies and sequels of movies. It's like, you know what? You did Pinocchio a million years ago. It was it's a classic. Please don't give me another Pinocchio.
There are things in Pinocchio that you can't duplicate. So then when you make a new Pinocchio, it doesn't quite come off the same. That's not the Pinocchio I grew up with. Why did you change it? Well, we have to, because we have to be, and you really do. You got to be politically correct.
Yep.
Okay. There are some movies they could not remake and could not make today. But
you
can't, if you change the storyline, you're going to get so many people complaining about it. Why did you change the storyline?
I agree with you, but that's why I think you need to go in a different direction. I think you have to allow your creative people to come up with new ideas. Where's the next Lion King? Where's the next Frozen? And that's something else that will bring people back to the parks. They'll want to go to Disney on vacation if there's a hit movie, because maybe they want to see a new character that's appearing there. Maybe there's a new attraction based on this movie.
Time out. Mm-hmm. Why do all the new attractions have to be based on something?
They don't.
An IEP.
They don't.
Why can't I miss the days of the Country Bears. I mean, the Jungle Cruise is loosely based on the African.
The African
jungle. What the movie was.
Yeah.
It was loosely based on that. Okay, but Pirates of the Caribbean, all these the Tiki Room, the classic attractions were their own IEP. It wasn't based on Frozen's a huge hit, we have to make an attraction for it.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, Walt didn't have as many movies from which to draw at the time, so they were putting their and I don't disagree.
Mr. Toad's Wild Ride was based on.
I'm just saying it's not a complete, it's not a complete apples to apples comparison.
No, and I think you could have a bit of both, but I think if you have a new hit movie, and you bring that hit movie into the parks, you bring guests that might not have otherwise come to Disney because of that movie. And I think if you create an attraction that is interesting in itself and you get the publicity from the people riding that attraction, you'll
Right.
get people in the parks too.
Okay.
You know, it's you know, they say no new. Wait, I'm sorry. There's no such thing as bad news, even if it's negative news that you can turn it into a positive. But except, you know, I disagree with that. When you're the Disney company, you need positive news because you need the cast members, you need the guests that are going to the parks, the people going to the movies, the people that watch their streaming services or their own television channels, to create the buzz that brings more people in. I think it's like one hand feeds the other and it goes on and on. It's a big circle. And when you break that circle, and we've seen that circle broken in the last couple of years, it's had resoundingly negative effects on the company.
Right.
You know, it's like how you would bring Fox in, you know, how I lost my thought, but you know, I don't know what his vision for Fox is. I don't know what his vision for ESPN is. You've got a lot of sports fans out there. Is
Do
owning
we
maybe
really want a Family Guy attraction?
no, but
I-
no, I don't. But you know what? Maybe Disney purchasing, let's say WWE as an example, would be a fit. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying they should do it. But of all the wrestling promotions out there, that's the most cartoonish one that's out there that could fit Disney. And could they make money off of it? I think they could. But is that part of their plan? We don't know. You know, I don't know. I don't know if it ever would be.
Put it into the NBA experience, that flopped major.
That did flop big time. I knew that wasn't going to work.
Yeah. Yep.
Not
Nobody
everything
thought it was.
Yeah. You know, what was there before that? Oh God, Quest.
It was Disney Quest.
Disney Quest. Yeah, you know, I love Disney Quest, but I think I'm in the minority on that.
It was a good place to go on a rainy day, or like a rainy afternoon.
Mm-hmm. You know, are there any other things you can think of that would help grow the magic that we haven't discussed yet?
Baby steps. Start with the baby steps.
Oh, it
Bring
has
back
steps. You can't.
some more of the live entertainment that used to be. Some of the stuff that used to be not. I can't remember the kilt band over that was in Canada.
Off Kilter.
I can't think of them.
Off
kilter.
Yeah.
Something like that. Just again, they don't have to be out all the time, 24/7, but it's little things like that. The juggler in Italy, the guy that climbs up, that guy scared the death out of me in France that was climbing up all the chairs. You'd stop for 10 minutes and watch him. It doesn't have to be a constant thing, but something beyond just people walking like we're just basically walk from one pavilion to the next.
Well, here's my top
nothing
three.
that we're stopping for other than the train. I stopped for the train.
Here's my top three of what I think they can do almost immediately. And when I say almost immediately, I mean give them 6 to 9 months. It could be done in less time, but I'll give them 6 to 9 months. Just really make the cast members happy however you can do it. And I'm not just talking about monetarily, just make them happy, make them want to get up in the morning and get to work. That's my number one thing. Number two is make Genie Plus work better. And I'm not saying not to charge, I'm saying make it work better. So those who are paying for it, it works for them, and those who are not paying for it, the parks still work for them. And number three, enhance the entertainment throughout the parks to give people a different experience every day that they're in the parks. Sorry, John, you were
Oh, no, I was just, when you talked about, you know, making the cast members, you know, happy, making them feel valued. I think the same needs to be said about the guests.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
So,
yes.
if you've got the cast members and the guests both feeling valued and heard and understood, those are, you know, two cornerstones, and
Yes.
entertainment plays into that.
Yep.
You know, how you manage Genie Plus and prices, and, you know, bringing back annual passes. You know, there are so many things. If you make
Mhm.
the cast members and the guests feel respected and understood and make them happy, the magic is going to make itself.
Absolutely. And I just thought of something else that I meant to mention earlier, and I don't know why I forgot this. For annual pass holders, if you charge them 100, 200, whatever it is, to have Genie Plus all year round, not the the paper ride, but just regular Genie Plus as an add-on, so it'd be available to them all year, that might help also.
See, and I was thinking, take care of those that are taking care of you. You've got Disney Vacation Club members who have invested thousands of dollars. And what are we? I mean, I'll tell you what. I'm sorry. I was so frustrated the last trip I was down. No offense, when I've got people that aren't even Disney Vacation Club members able to get into something that I couldn't get into while I was down there, that was supposed to be something for a Disney Vacation Club member, make us really feel rewarded. Well, you know that happens. I get it. But
Kurt,
it's something like that. You want to reward me? Don't charge me $900 or $1,100 for an annual pass. Offer Disney Vacation Club members all those options that you're offering to the Florida residents, because when you get right down to it, we're down there and going more often than some of the Florida residences.
So I do agree with you to a large extent on that.
I don't count that as a 1%er, because there's way more people that are just Vacation Club members than I would consider a 1%er.
I kind of
neither of us are 1%ers. That's
I'm not a 1%er. I'm a Disney Vacation Club member.
Yeah, I'm living on a fixed income now, so it's not easy. Not these days.
But we've done nothing but just watched. I mean, our rates go up every year, sometimes substantially. And I get it, stuff needs to be done on the resorts, and it needs some of it's taxes from the state that we don't have any control over. But all they got to do, give us a little bit of love back. Hey, you know what? We're really sorry. We had to raise the rates for this, but we're going to work with you. We're offering this in exchange also. And it's not just a party that you may or may not be able to get onto, or a cruise that you may or may not be able to get onto.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kurt. I think that you don't bite the hand that feeds you. DVC members, annual pass holders, while they may not make up the most revenue for the company, it's an income stream that they can count on every year.
They wouldn't have DVC if it wasn't generating revenue for them.
Yep, absolutely.
They wouldn't be building a Polynesian DVC.
If
it wasn't making money.
You know how they used to, and I don't know if they're still doing this, you'd stay at a Disney resort, and before you left, you'd have something, book your next vacation now and get a certain percentage off your next trip. You're giving somebody an incentive to come back. They should be doing things for the DVC members who are giving their good hard-earned money to them each year to come back and keep coming back. And when those years run out for their DVC, repurchase it again. Give them an incentive to repurchase it. Same thing with annual pass holders. Give us something that makes us want to keep coming back. They know they have us, so that's part of the problem.
Yeah. We shouldn't tell them how much we like them, should we?
Yeah, no, we shouldn't.
We should make it a little more mysterious.
Yeah, but you know what? There's not. But they know they have us, but there's nothing wrong with them rewarding us.
No,
for our loyalty.
Well, right, because it's going to benefit them. It's going to be more of a win-win. If the more that they appreciate us and give us the kinds of things that make us want to come back, the more we are going to come back. So,
absolutely.
And the more that we're going to spread that magic to other people.
Oh yeah.
I can't tell if I had a dime for every time people said to me, how many years in a row have you gone to Disney? How often do you go to Disney? Why do you keep going back to Disney? And it's starting to get a little harder to answer that.
Yeah.
The prices are getting to the point where it's like, I don't know what to tell you. It's getting a little crazy with the prices. So
when I go to the parks and I see the lines, the way they're set up, where the standby line says 85 minutes and there's hardly anybody on there. And the Genie Plus line is going back a mile, but everybody in the Genie Plus line is going first while no one on the standby line is allowed to go. When they're taking 20, 30, 40, 50 people from the Genie Plus line and then 4 people from the standby line, it drives me nuts.
Right.
Because at that point, they're doing it for the money. These people paid, so we have to get them in there first. But they forget
Right.
that
We've
people
had that
are paying
discussion.
$140, $150 a day for a ticket, and they're telling them F you.
Yeah.
And
You didn't pay enough.
Right.
Sorry, your $150 ticket wasn't enough.
Exactly. You didn't pay enough, so you're a second-class citizen.
Yeah,
And
you only
that's how
paid for the experience to get into the park, not to go onto the attractions.
Yeah. And that's how they start. I don't want to say they still are, but that's what they started to make people feel. And the CEO who was in charge at the time wasn't doing anything to change that perception. And it's a shame that it took this long to bounce his rear end out of there, although I'm sure he's very happy with the money he got to leave. But I mean, he alienated everyone from senior management to the people sweeping the floors in the parks to the guests that come in there and spend their hard-earned money. All right, enough from me on that.
Yeah. I got to get on a plane tomorrow.
All right. Yeah, I think we've given our listeners and viewers a lot to think about in terms of what can make the magic grow in the parks, how they could be run better to make it more magical for us, not just in the parks, but outside of the parks. Something I did want to mention too I'd love to see Disney do. I know they do certain things throughout the states where they'll bring a show in here, whether it's Disney on Ice or something like that. Maybe, have a traveling, almost Broadway-like show that they can bring around from state to state too, to get guests in to experience some of the Disney magic, in their local town or city. That's something else maybe they could think about doing. And I know that costs a lot of money to do, to put on a production like that. But, I know they have musical tours too with Disney artists, which is always good to see coming around throughout the states. Anyway, I think we gave a lot of information out there, a lot of our opinions out there, good, bad, or otherwise. So this Three Stooges show is coming to an end. I hope you enjoyed the show. We will be back early next week with our news edition and later in the week with our regular show. So until then, everybody, be safe. Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.
I think we've all shown tonight that it's time to remember the magic. Have yourselves a magical week. Hope to see you back next week. Good night.
And remember, for all your travel needs, there's only one place to go, and that's Mouse Fan Travel. They are simply the best, the greatest, whether it's Disneyland, Disney World, an Adventure by Disney, Disney Cruise. Nobody does travel better than Mouse Fan Travel. And you can find out more information about them and all their great deals at www.mousefantravel.com. That is www.mousefantravel.com.